Welcome to the Big Kickoff Football Show. Myself, Roy Shanahan. Joining me is Neil Dobbs and David Bugle, as always. And the Euros are here. Euro 2020 in 2021, but we've got it underway and not so bad so far. Dave, we started off with Italy. We started off with Turkey. Everyone was interested to see what Turkey be like because they're a young side, a decent side. Had some good, decent results, like they beating Holland 4-2 in the qualifying campaign for the World Cup, but then also lost twice to Hungary. And we seen Hungary not so long ago there, and there were no great shakes. So they didn't really show us too much though in the end, then, did they?
Yeah, because the one of the big kind of main lines of talking about Turkey, because everyone's scrambling to try and pretend like they know who everyone is on TV. Oh, they're miserly defence. They've only conceded 3 goals in the campaign, and of course they conceded 3 in 90. Offered little or nothing. Whether they were trying to do the whole stereotypical keep it tight for an hour and then maybe come alive at the end, was that the gamble? Fair enough. But they'd no answer for Italy. Italy played well. Liked a very possession-based game. Sometimes I found it a bit slow, a bit pedestrian. I think it was obvious, or I think it was too strong for Turkey. But it'd be very interesting coming up against better opposition, because I just found that maybe it was just the opposition that it was, but I just found it a little bit on the slow side. I think somebody better and sharper in defence could kind of sniff them out a little bit. But listen, they took their chances very well. Immobile is I very much rate the guy. But yeah, job well done considering the likes of Verratti was missing as well. So listen, a cracking start. Who cares when all is said and done? If you're top of the group, 3-0 in your first game is great. But yeah, I wouldn't get overly excited just yet about Italy. Very promising. But yeah, Turkey were bitterly disappointed.
Yeah, no, I thought I was disappointed in Turkey. They never showed anything. Neil, if you're Mancini, you're just looking to win. We've always seen Italy, they'll go out, grind out the 1-0s or maybe a 2-1, but this is a little bit more convincing than that.
Yeah, in all fairness to Italy, they really set the tone for this game. They pinned them in. They got after them all over the pitch. I think Mancini got it right as far as pinning them in, pinning them back in their own half for most of the game. Like Italy are on what is it, like a 27-28 game non-losing streak anyway, that they're not winning them all, but they're not losing games. So they should rightly be holding the likes of a Turkey at an arm's length. And I think they did that comfortably. And, I was looking, kind of Googling their backline there today because I thought it was interesting. They've got Chiellini and Bonucci in there who are 36 and 34 years old. And you're thinking to yourself, for a tournament, can they last a full tournament, a game every 4 or 5 days? And if all the games are like that, you're damn right they can. Sure, they were in second gear. Chiellini was drifting into the midfield. They were calling the trademark runs after a while. So I think they had a very, very easy time. But the Italians got everything right. And they put them to the sword when they got their chances. So great start for them.
Yeah. We're going to go on to the England game, Dave, because that's the one that everyone was kind of looking forward to seeing. One, because it's England. Everyone's always intrigued. Are they going to stumble and fall on their face, or are they going to do well? The second part is because a lot of their games are at home anyhow. So if they go on and win their group and whatever, they've got a good path through. So they've got a good side. They've got a good squad. So what did you make of them today? They win 1-0 against Croatia. What was your thoughts? First of all, I suppose, on the team setup, the first 11.
Yeah, like Jesus, Twitter came alive when they heard it was, what's his name, left back Trippier, and then what was the other one? Oh, Sterling was playing and Grealish was on the bench. But it was more the Trippier thing. Everyone's going, now when I first heard it myself, I thought, you have 2 fullbacks, 2 solid fullbacks, one with United, obviously, in Luke Shaw, and one is a Champions League winner, and they're both on the bench. It's got to be a bit of a slap in the face, no matter how much they say, oh, great result today, boys, Chilwell put something up afterwards. He's got to be pissed off. I would be anyway, that's for sure. And we talked about this last week. It's easy for him now because it's after paying off. Croatia didn't really put up as much as I thought. Slightly age inside, maybe their golden period is finished, but at the same time, you still have to give them the respect, otherwise they can still kind of catch you out. But England did well. Like, the great start for 15-20 minutes, then petered out. One thing, I start watching Rice a lot because I don't know why, I just said, right, let's see what he's all about. But he's very good at doing this and he's very good at doing that. He literally did that for 90 minutes. Pass there, don't give it to me, but pass there and pass there. Like, that's literally what I see with him. Now, everyone's going to big him up. Everyone's going to say it was fantastic and there was great partnership. I thought he did absolutely nothing, and any self-respecting pro could have done his job today. And that's not being anti the switch. He did an incredibly boring job. and avoided a lot of good work. But Calvin Phillips had a cracker, and they'll say, "Oh, because of Royce sitting there doing fat goal, that freed up Phillips, and he gets away with it." But me personally, I thought he robbed a 90-minute performance off somebody else. I think he did little or no impact, but because the others played so well, in my opinion, he's going to get away with it.
And do you think, though, that that's possibly because Croatia were so poor that he never had to do anything?
Yeah, no, exactly, and that's the other side of the argument as well. Like, without a shadow of a doubt. But it was funny when England owned the ball, he didn't want to know about it. As I said, it was all go this way, go that way, don't give it to me, and that kind of annoyed me a bit. It was kind of like, well, just get into the game and get involved. Yes, maybe that's another aspect of it, and I'll gladly put my hand up to that. But you know, it was down to other people. Phillips was superb today. He really did stick out for them, and he was full of energy. And of course, he set up the goal. But yeah, definitely got the head scratching beforehand. I don't care about the results. I still think left back should be playing left backs. Was he there for no other reason than set pieces? Like, no matter what, throughout the tournament, he'll get caught out at some point playing out of position, because he is out of position. It's a different position altogether, and it will bite him on the arse if he keeps him there. So keep him there at your peril. That'd be my opinion. You know, especially when you've got two quality players there on the bench who could do it better.
Neil, you can throw your thoughts in on that one, but also Sterling getting the nod ahead of Rashford and Sancho not even getting into the matchday squad.
Yeah, I think Southgate's after making some big calls, and he's putting his print on the team. I don't know whether, as Dave's saying, he's trying to do something to be smart for the sake of it, or does he genuinely see something there and saying, look, I'm going to play these guys, they're in form, they're suiting what I want to do. The Trippier thing, I just can't understand whatsoever. You know, playing a right back at left full when you've two, left fulls who one of them came off his best season in about 10 years and won a Champions League, and I thought made a real late surge to nail down that spot. Absolutely cannot. I could believe him over one of them, but not over both of them. Definitely not over both of them. And I do think they'll pay for that eventually in the long run, because it just doesn't add up in my head. I think the positions up the field, look, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place when it's Grealish versus Rashford or Foden versus Sancho. So look, he went with two. It gives you an idea of what he's thinking, of who he thinks are, the best guys for the job at the moment. And I thought, Foden made a noose of himself today. I thought he got into some good spots, hit the bar or the post. So clearly this is the way Southgate sees his team playing, where they sat deep in parts of the game. They soaked it up because they knew Croatia couldn't hurt them. And then they just let the lads up front eventually work a piece of magic, which they did. So I do agree that for now you can't say that in the Southgate, because he got the result, so they're kind of untouchable. Calvin Phillips was a massive plus today. That performance was brilliant, and that'll set him up for the tournament. I guess they've bigger fish to fry further down the line when a team will press them and check their back line. That'll be the making and breaking of England.
Yeah. Dave, I suppose when you look at the players that the young players that everyone's been talking about, Foden played well, Mount played well, Sterling stepped in and played well, Phillips played well. So there's a lot of calls there that he has got right. You could talk about Grealish, but this is just, he can't fit everyone into the team. And one of the big things that Eriksen and the rest of them got was trying to fit players in just because they were good players. He's fitting what he seems to be the players he needs in the positions that he needs them.
Yeah, like no matter what, if you had to put Grealish instead of Foden, people would have been moaning that Foden wasn't starting. Like they're like Neil kind of rhymed them off all there. Like, in fairness to Foden, today, it was not that I was passing him by, but I was really impressed with him in the second half. I was very much like, all right, now give me the ball. It's time to make an impact, and he really got into it himself because it wasn't quite happening. And Sterling very much stood up and was counted today, because obviously he paid back the manager for the trust that he gave him. Kane was quiet. Not a lot was coming for him. And then I noticed him dropping in a little deep, a la what he was doing a bit with Spurs. Now, whether that was down to frustration just to try and get onto it and stuff, but it wasn't really made for him today, the game. It was very much getting down the wings and getting in behind, a bit the way a City kind of team play. But the guys who did come in very much stood up and were counted, and you have to credit the lads for putting the trust back into Southgate, giving it. But like it's all going to be a bit of a debate. But because of the talent that's there. You've Rashford, Sancho, and Grealish, who could easily have probably potentially done a job today, and that's impressive. And trying to keep that camp happy now. Now that doesn't mean they have to get in and get minutes. The lads have done enough, in my opinion, to go again on Friday against Scotland. So it's up to the other lads now to really put it up to them in training and try and force their way in.
Yeah, and Neil Walker always does a good job at right full anyhow. So you can't we can never really criticize him no matter what, because he's always solid enough in his performances. Stones and Mings, that was always the big question, and Pickford because of his club form. But in fairness, Pickford was generally okay, and the two lads in the back line, while they may not have had a lot to do, that was probably a good game for him to settle in.
Yeah, I think, look, if history has taught us that in watching England, it's that the group stages are generally more or less a formality, unless they get like a Germany group of death this year. But I think they'll be okay anyway. They would expect to have got out there today and at the least picked up a point. But yeah, they'll only be judged when you see them up against the bigger teams, your Frances, your Germanys. Even Italy might even give them a bit of trouble. I wouldn't be very confident with Tyrone Mings, and I know Stones had a good season, but he had Diaz beside him, and I don't consider Tyrone Mings to be in the same class as Diaz. Like, Diaz is different class, simple as that. So that would be a big test for them. But I think what they had in front of them today, they dealt very, very well with. And yeah, look, Pickford in goal. He is their number one at the moment. I can't really make a case for anyone else going in ahead of them. They don't have the experience, which is huge. I kind of said a few weeks ago, I definitely think Pickford's going to start, because nobody has really challenged him enough to say, oh, you got to put that guy in there. Henderson was coming good maybe mid-season when he got his run in United, and it's kind of tapered off a little bit towards the end of the season. So there's nothing there to tell you to drop Pickford. I think they play to his strengths. They like his ability with his feet. He's comfortable with the ball. He can send a 70, 80 yard or get you up the field. So, I think it's justified. Just on Kyle Walker, I will say, I know he has one in the locker where he has that horror show or that big mistake in him that gets highlighted every now and then. But I genuinely think he goes up a level when he plays for England, be it in the last tournament in the back three. He was really, really good at times. And today, again, I think he's a guy that has a good inner confidence in himself. And again, I think he did very, very well.
Dave, does anyone else have a chance of getting into this team against Scotland? Does he change things around? Does he freshen it up? Does he keep the same team that's won? What way do you think he'd be thinking about Scotland?
Yeah, it'd be hard to, unless he's a different game plan, unless he's to be a bit more bold and a bit more and a bit more kind of forceful on the game for the full 90. Because as I said, it was very much a 15-minute start, and then it kind of petered out for a while, where it was almost like, yeah, let's keep it cool, keep it tidy. It's nice and warm today. A draw is not the worst thing, is what Neil said. But unless he wants to change tactics, maybe. But to be honest, the midfield three and the front three, I don't think did anything wrong. I've not, like, Kane has to start regardless because of his finishing ability. It was just not his day where he wasn't getting what I think he would want. Backline, like, what's the point if he puts in Sean Chilwell now? What's the point? Why did you play Trippier today? That's the only one where he might, like, really, momentum is a big thing. Get the second win. Scotland's a big game because it's a derby, so it's a big game regardless, but get that second win, it's done. And then Czech Republic, bring in a Rashfords and Grealishes and even Calvert-Lewins, give the lads a day off, you know what I mean? Because I still think they'll be too strong for Czech Republic. So this is like your second final of the group. You've already got a great win against Croatia, who that would have been the one where you just don't lose, but you got the bonus of the win. Get the win and then go wholesale for the Czech Republic game for me.
Is the Trippier thing, Dave, would it have anything to do with Perisic playing out on the right-hand side? Does he feel that maybe Trippier is a better one-on-one defender, where the other two, well, they're good defenders, are, I suppose, more positive when they're going forward?
Yeah, did he switch over? Because he played a lot on the left-hand side in the first half today. So I don't know whether he was switching wings, but possibly. I don't know. I haven't seen much of him this year. I know he's played well and consistent at Atletico, but I haven't seen a lot of Spanish football. But before game, 100% found it very strange, very weird, and I think it's silly. And I still think it's a bit silly. But if it's for pure defensive purposes, credit where credit's due. He knows better than I do anyway, so I'll have to trust him in that.
we'll find out now in the next couple of games and what he decides to do there. Neil, Wales get a draw against Switzerland. What was your thoughts in the game? What's your thoughts on Wales? I'll give you my thoughts. I can't see them doing too much. I don't think they're on par with the team from the last major championships.
Yeah, I agree. This is a very even game. I think both teams could have delivered a knockout blow. You know that way. Very open game. I thought they both created a lot of chances. The more I watched it, the more I felt someone like maybe Dan James was going to do just a little moment. I think he had the measure of his marker in that game. Remember when he tipped it by him and your man Broughton didn't even try to tackle him, just said, right, you're going on the deck, and that was that. I think Wales did themselves okay. They looked dangerous enough. I thought Moore up front did very well. They had a couple of good chances. That seems to be the game plan. You're getting it to Bale, you're getting it to Dan James, and you're whipping these balls in. You're trying to overload the box a little bit. And I think they did that part very well. They had a handful of chances that maybe on the other day, I know the keeper took off one or two good saves as well. I haven't seen Moore at all. I know he's for Cardiff. I was Googling him there to see him. So 40 appearances, 20 goals for Cardiff. So he's obviously a guy that's in a decent run of form. Fair play to him. But I think Wales are just, if you look at Bale, you look at Joe Allen, a few of these boys, they've been around a long, long time. It feels like almost Ireland 10 years ago, where when this kind of older guard steps down, Ramsey was the same. I thought Ramsey was kind of a little bit anonymous, where he was a big game go-to player for Wales in the last few tournaments. I think, look, their team spirit and the way they play, they'll do themselves justice. But as soon as they run into one of the heavyweights, that'll be it for me. I think they'll admirably be on their way home. Okay,
nicely put, Dave. I suppose when you look at Gareth Bale and then you look at Dan James, I thought Dan James was given more than Bale was, and I think when he was getting taken off, he wasn't a happy boy. Do you have to keep Gareth Bale on the bench or on the pitch just because you know that one thing he can do out of nothing?
My own personal opinion, no, because I'm bored of him. But two, I suppose, yeah, because as much as he will do very little in a game, he will give him that extra yard and he'll put it in the top corner. There's no two ways about it. But he reminded me a bit of Messi in the last World Cup. He just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper and not really doing anything other than nice sweeping cross field balls. That's all he did. He offered no shot on goal. He did little or nothing off the ball. James was everywhere, and rightly so. I'd be pissed off. He was the one who was really making the difference in the attack side of things, because Moore was dangerous, and they obviously didn't enjoy having to deal with him. I thought they went a bit over the top with his bandage though, for the tiny little scrape that he got. It was a bit much now, because he had this tiny little thing. Next minute, bump. But anyway, and his poor old ears were getting flattened. But Bale was completely ineffective, apart from 3 or 4 wide sweeping balls, and that was it. But you blink and he could put one in the top corner. So the manager's between a rock and a hard place. He takes him off instead of James. He'd be bashed if anything went wrong. So he probably took the easy option and take the young kid off, who have a bit of a moan, but he knows his place. While you take Bale off, it could completely ruin the atmosphere of the team. Because let's face it, he might come across as Mr. Wales, but if you drop him, I'm sure he'll turn that camp rapid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was delighted that they got the draw. I obviously cheering them on. I wanted them to do well, but yeah, just don't see him as strong. They just don't see him as threatening as they were.
Roy, did you notice? Roy, did you notice? It was like as soon as they conceded a goal, all of a sudden Wales were a decent side, and I was like, they should win this game the way they were playing. They were playing. I thought they, obviously looking at after that first goal, I thought they played within themselves. But one thing's for sure. Sorry, I forgot to mention it. That those two centre halves were shocking. And Bolo didn't just go. The only way you try and get in between the centre backs and the full backs, he went straight through the middle of them on 2 or 3 occasions. And I'm sorry, and Bolo is no superstar, and that was far too easy. So I'd fear very much for Wales against the likes of your Italy's, even Turkey if they got their finger out.
Yeah. One team that did impress, Neil, was Belgium against a very average Russia. And I think it's been a very average Russia for a long, long time now. And we actually had this conversation at home about Russia. I think USSR back in 88, that was their only kind of really sort of major I think it was the last time they were in a kind of a final, semi-final. even quarterfinal. I can't remember them even hitting the quarterfinal now off the top of my head. They just have been very average for such a huge nation. You wonder what's going on there. But for Belgium, even with the few players that they were missing, they still were very impressive.
Yeah, Belgium is the interesting one for this tournament because nobody is really pinning their hat on them and saying, yeah, Belgium are going to win this. Whereas in the last tournament, people were thinking, this is their time now. The one thing Belgium have is a very, very set way of playing, and they've been doing it now under, what's his name?
Martinez.
Roberto Martinez. I was going to say Mancini or Martinez. Yeah, so they've been playing the same way for quite some time. The three at the back, Lukaku's their spearhead. The two guys in the middle, I think it was a Dendoncker or someone stepped in there the other night with Tielemans. So they're a very settled side. The way they play is set up to get the best out of their best players. Now, that said, De Bruyne is out, and obviously you'd be a little worried about them. But the way they went about their business was absolute surgical. I thought it was very impressive. They contained Russia. They didn't give them an inch. And they could be that quiet contender in the background that comes up with a shock maybe later in the tournament. I definitely think they'll progress. The question, of course, is when they run up against France, what are they going to do? Do they have that kind of the quality to beat a team like France? But they're slightly aging as well. Same thing around the back line. They have a couple of lads that are getting on in years, but I think they have a good tournament ahead of them if they keep playing like that. And obviously they're hoping De Bruyne might come back a little bit later on, which adds that little bit of spark as well. But I know they were very good. I think with Lukaku, they've got a guy that's going to get them goals, and goals win games. If he can have a good tournament, they could go far.
Yeah. Dave, you might have something going on with your mic there. It might be a bit of scratching or something going on. Just keep an eye out for it there. Okay. Dave, Lukaku, I put a tenner on Lukaku for top goal scorer. Chuffed. How do you rate Lukaku? His finishing, the first goal, actually. I don't know. Like, maybe I'm getting really old, but for me, that's offside. Because they played the ball in to centre forward, the defender got a touch, and then Lukaku finished it. But when the ball was played, he was in an offside position. So when the defender gets the touch, he's gained an advantage from being in an offside position. So do you agree with me, or am I still stuck back in the dark ages now, where you're going to have to start accepting it? Because it doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, but no doubt there's probably sub-paragraphs underneath these laws which we'll discuss in another game.
What about the logical laws? We won't go on with their laws. What about logical laws?
Oh, yeah, he looked offside to me, and he was already in an advantageous position, but it was touched by the defender. Am I right in saying it? Yeah, like
it was touched by the defender then after the ball was past 30 yards.
Yeah, so... Yeah, nowadays it's one of them, but our generation we'd say otherwise, to be honest, Roy. But in relation to Lukaku,
what did you think, Lukaku?
He scores goals. End of story. Very like Jimmy Quinn and Talksport and the guy crying. Lukaku gets goals no matter where he goes. I don't know where he struggled at all. Obviously, he struggled with a relationship with Solskjaer, but the guy still got goals. Anyone who gets him, you know what you're going to get. It's as simple as that. It's whether you can fit around him, because, like, yes, he has a certain style, and he's not a multifaceted striker, but the guy knows what he does and does it well. And he's so strong. Like, defenders must hate coming up against him. But no matter what, he does it wherever he goes, and credit to him. And anyone who doesn't rate him, I wouldn't have a lot of time to sit and debate with them, to be honest.
Okay. Neil, I give this one to you. Nathan says the likes of Immobile and Lukaku off the mark. Any predictions for the Golden Boot winner?
No, other than the heavies. Do you know what it is? I'm dying to see how Portugal get on. I was looking at the Portuguese team, and yet there's so many goal scorers in there. Will one of them maybe take the crown? You know what I mean? You're expecting, obviously, Ronaldo, because they create for Ronaldo more than anyone. It's an interesting one. Even, there's always the tournaments I always look at who takes the set pieces, free kick scorers, someone that maybe plays in the 9 or the 10, but also takes penalties and set pieces. That always gives them an extra goal or two. For the net, I think Portugal are going to do well in this tournament, provided they get out of the group. But I think they're going to do well. But there's a lot of goals in them. But I just don't know, will they be shared across kind of the front four? Or will the likes of Ronaldo grab all the headlines and maybe nick something? Like, I don't know what odds Ronaldo is. You'll never get good odds on him, but I think he'd be worth, he'd be looking at Lukaku, definitely, because I think Belgium purely play to find Lukaku goals. He's the perfect forward. Looking at Italy the other night, You never know. The front three are all capable of getting goals. They're off the mark. But yeah, I've missed me betting window already. Unless I want to get some awful odds on somebody now.
Yeah, I think Ronaldo was something like 12-1.
Yeah, that's probably based on the group he's in, Roy. You know, when you need a good group to get your 4 or 5, and then you grab your 1 or 2 in the knockouts. That's why Lukaku now. I know it's easy saying it now after he got a couple yesterday, but he's Finland and Denmark left. There's no reason why he can't get another 2 or 3 potentially, and he's off and running.
Well, he was the favourite as well, I think.
Exactly, and it's probably based on the group draw as well, like, because that's where you look. Remember, like Solenko back in, he got 5 in 1 game, and I think he got golden boot. So that's where it's coming from. So yeah, I'd have to say well done for Shano there. At the moment, he's front runner as Lukaku based on the group draw.
Yeah. Now I did use my free tenner bet on an outsider Turkey at 66-1, so I knew that was wasted, but at least it was a free bet, so I get over that one. I suppose the big story, and I know we haven't touched on it yet, Dave, was Denmark and Finland and Ericsson, which was, I won't even pretend, it was a scary moment. It was actually an awful moment to there's a couple of things. First of all, I was watching it with hope, looking at it, come on, pull through. You really were fearful for him, and it kind of hit home. I don't know if it's because I'm older, you have kids and all that sort of stuff. Right? The younger people go always after collapsing, and it, it's just one of them things. But it kind of hit home an awful lot. And I heard Alex Scott, isn't it? Like, she got very emotional on the telly, and you could see a few of them get emotional. But on the other side, Dave, and you might answer this as well. There was a lot of people giving out that the television companies didn't cut away to the studio. Yeah. I kind of found that I can understand why they were kind of saying that, but I also I would have been looking elsewhere then to see if I could find what was going on, because it was something that you were really concerned about at the same time. Obviously, the close-ups you don't need, but being in the stadium just to see, a few reactions of people, because you got your reaction straight away of someone cheering or whatever, and because you didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, like, I suppose somebody said something along like, they go to a wide angle whenever like a streaker or a fan runs onto the pitch. Like, there could have been a bit of an element of that once or twice, because some of it was a bit grim, a bit hard to watch, but like at the end of the day, like, to completely go away and just listen to people kind of trying to second guess what was happening, I suppose, there could have been a bit of that, a bit of an element. So I do understand, because it can be a tough watch, but that's up to you, the viewer, what you should and shouldn't. But like, the close-ups and 1 or 2 of them, like, it's tough viewing. And then when the wife is on the pitch as well, like, you're potentially watching somebody die. And I do understand to an extent, but a clever director or producer, whoever he is, could have done it slightly better or slightly more tasteful, I suppose. But as regards the BBC getting bashed, it was nothing to do with them. It was the feed of what they could have cut to the studio if they want. They could have done a lot of things, but it wasn't their fault in that sense. Similar with RTE, but it's just a grim reality that no one's what's the word, indefensible, sorry, we're not like, these are the fittest of the fittest, and it doesn't matter. It can happen to any of us at any time. And that guy is in the middle of a big game at home. And it just goes to show you it can happen at any time. And as it came out today, he had a cardiac arrest. And thankfully, the defibrillators and the medics were there on hand. They only used it the once, but they managed to get him back quite quick, and he was able to recover. But in relation to the coverage, listen, you only have to wake up in the morning and you offend people nowadays, right? So there's somebody's going to have a problem with it. But I do understand to an extent, but at the same time, it would have been very strange for us all. We would have all wanted to know what's happening. It doesn't necessarily have to be as visual as it was, but
Yeah, because Neil, the very first thing that I realised was, I know they were talking about why were they putting the wife up on the telly, why were they zooming in her? But the very first moment that I had an idea that he was probably going to be okay was at that moment where Kasper Schmeichel was shaking his head to say, no, he's going to be all right, reassuring her. And it kind of reassured. There was, at home, we were watching it, there was 6 of us around the telly, and we all just a sigh of relief then. We're like, oh no, I think he's going to be okay. He's after nodding to the wife. It was one of those moments where I actually think the world were concerned at the very, very same time watching this moment.
Yeah, it was an absolutely incredible moment. Now, I was in the pub and I got a WhatsApp video, and this was saying about the coverage. The WhatsApp video showed him from very close angle going down. So the minute that he went down, and you could see his kind of eyes wide open, and he was gone. And there was something incredible about it. I know my dad phoned me, "You're watching this, what's going on?" You could see all the players. Some players run towards that type of scenario, like a broken leg or something. Some of them run away. It was unbelievable drama, and to watch it in that manner was incredible to watch. And then obviously in the aftermath of it all, you're commending people for the way they handled themselves and the medics and how quick they got in there. I know they were, Dermot Gallagher was raving about the referee. The referee must have been thinking, what am I meant to do with this? Like, you can't train for this. This is a one in a lifetime, hopefully, thing that would ever happen. And it was just amazing. And like that, Kasper Schmeichel consoling the wife, and, the players, it was a brilliant moment. They all stood around them, and, they had their backs to him, and they were, protecting him. And it was this kind of one moment of unity when everybody from behind the screen was just waiting to hear he's okay. There's some good news coming from this. It was just an incredible moment. And look, whatever about the coverage, whether it was right, maybe they could have zoomed out. But what are they going to do if they cut to the studio? Right, Alex, tell us about the game. People were getting upset. People were visually stunned. They were caught in the moment. So it was unbelievable television. It was like watching one of these episodes of EastEnders or something where it reaches this climax. But this was real. This was real life, and it was just an amazing moment. And obviously brilliant then that he pulled through. He FaceTimed the team, I think, from the dressing room and all, and kind of told them, look, I'm good to go. I'm okay here. So look, if you're going to suffer a heart attack at any stage of your life, why not in a stadium where there's medics and guys for concussion treatment and the equipment to deal with it? You know what I mean? It's a harrowing story, but a brilliant story the way it kind of turned out.
That's it. Neil just pulled that one out of the bag there. I was going to say the exact same thing, Dave. If there's anywhere you're going to suffer a cardiac arrest, on the middle of a football pitch with every bit of the best of medical teams, best of doctors around, it's probably not a bad place. It could very well have been after training when he got home and there's no one there, and you wouldn't be there. So in a way, in a roundabout way, it's probably a lucky place to have it. No one really wants to have it, of course.
100%.
Sorry, you must have a delay there.
No, but was there a question? I don't know. I thought you were just making a statement. I was going, yeah.
Right. Okay. We'll all agree on that one. We'll all agree on that one. It's great to see him pull through and that he's talking and everything. So
no, 100%. Like as the manager said last night, the game was irrelevant at the end of the day. It really does hammer home, as important as it is. It's not. We all need to get on with life, and you all have your family and friends, and that's what it's really all about. As much as we want to see our countries lift trophies, at the end of the day, that really just hammers home the reality of life. And this is just a side. This is a side thing that keeps us entertained. And it was incredible. And everyone said it. And then if you look at social media here in the local area, everyone's putting up where all the defibrillators are around the towns and around the villages and stuff like that. And all the clubs that have it, and any clubs that don't, here's where you can go and get them. So in fairness, it's raising awareness as well. So it's creating a bit of a local legacy and maybe international as well, because now people are kind of going, Jesus, what if this happens to mere mortals like us? We need to give ourselves a chance,
Yeah, exactly. Neil, what did you make of them going out and playing the game a little later on? There was the coach said that FIFA gave them a couple of options. It was either that evening or the next day. As far as they were concerned, Eriksson was fine. They were after talking to him, and so they proceeded with it that evening. They seemed to be fine, but again, that's even for the Finland players, I suppose. It takes a lot out of you, surely.
Yeah, I do you know what it is? Look, we've a lot of hindsight to think about this now because it's 24 hours later, but I'm just thinking of a purely footballing perspective, right? Your adrenaline is flying, you're on the pitch, something like this happens and you're standing there for, let's call it half an hour. I'd say your heart is pumping like mad. You go back to the dressing room, you're emotional, you let your emotions out, behind closed doors, you sit down. You must be drained psychologically, physically. I actually don't know how they went back in that field. Now, I'm sure at the time they were thinking, look, lads, we either get this out of the way now, he's given us a blessing, or do we want to come back tomorrow morning? I think if it was me, I would have slept on it and gone for it the morning after, when you kind of can assimilate it a little better, maybe talk it over with the right people. I don't know how they went back in that field, both sets of players, not just Denmark, but you must have been absolutely physically drained from your heart pumping that much for that period of time, and then to go back out and play a game, you couldn't be right in the head at that stage. So strange decision, but at the end of the day, look, at least it was the player's decision, or we're led to believe that, it was the player's decision. They unanimously agreed. They got the thumbs up from Eriksson. Who are we to say it's a wrong thing? But it's just, I don't know. It's a horrible circumstance that they had to get that game played, whether it was that night, that morning. And look, at least it's over and it's done with now, so they can move on, I guess.
Yeah. Dave, Austria this evening beat North Macedonia 3-1 in what was probably one of my favourite games of the competition so far. It was end to end. It was interesting. You were hoping North Macedonia could get something out of the game, but just that little bit of quality in the end snuck it for Austria.
Yeah, Arnautovic tried to do a bit of a Timuri Kitsboya impression there. He was a bit annoyed after one of the goals, but it was just a great open game. Obviously, Austria had a bit more. Sabitzer, who everyone's whispering about, looked decent at different times, at moments. Obviously, Arnautovic showed his class, but it was just a good. Listen, the way it's always the way that crappy mid-table game that's on a Monday night. I'll swerve it, and it's a 4-3 cracker. That's the one where everyone, I'll wait till the Dutch tonight, and you've missed a decent game of ball. That's the best way to put it. It's write them little games off at your peril, because that's usually when it's a bit, because this is the game where both of them are like, this is our chance for the 3 points. So this is the one where they both need to roll the dice. And that was the feeling you got. It was a bit open. And of course, we got some goals, and that's what you want. That's
it. Okay. We'll come back with the Euros again next week, because there's nothing really else to talk about.
There is. One. There was never a penalty.
Oh, yeah. Go on. Talk about the penalty.
Do you know what it is? Like, let's pretend what happened with Eriksson for a minute. I don't like Denmark because I'm sick of them for the last few years with us and playing them, and they don't seem to like us because of our negative play, blah blah blah, and they're not great to watch either. And plus, you've got the likes of your Cornelius, who was an absolute sham at Cardiff. So it doesn't take much for me to jump on them, But Poulsen, he infuriates me. Like, I don't know how he is at the level he is. He just somehow bluffs his way around it. Dived 5 minutes before that, 10 minutes before that, got the free. And the usual, I needed to be shown in the rule book this beautiful C word called contact. Because once they get that, they have a get out of jail card. He literally took another step and then decided, I'm not going to put my foot down in live time, not slow motion. And it was obvious. But now let's go to VAR. And I said, they're gonna get this, because all they're going to do is get the magnifying glass out. Yeah, the knee touched the foot. Job done. Penalty. Happy days. But Højbjerg missed it. So deep down, I don't care anymore. But in my opinion, never a penalty.
Neil, in your opinion?
How many times did see? I put it like this, right? You get any little bit of contact and you go down.
That's all that matters.
And you stand, and what was it, Calvert-Lewin, a few weeks back, we were just saying on the show, he stayed up, tried to be honest, looked at the ref, went, yeah, he kicked me, the ref went, and you didn't fall, you don't get your penalty, you didn't scream,
exactly.
You didn't, roll around. I really hope they do something to address that. I don't know what it is to do, but, it's part of the game.
Hackett said it last week, I'm only learning from the best.
There you go.
I actually... When I seen it first, I didn't know if it was a penalty. When I seen it on the third time around, the best angle, I thought it was a penalty. But I didn't know in the first two. I'm surprised how the referee actually knew it was a penalty, because he wouldn't have seen it from a good angle at all. I still think it was a penalty. If you're running in a box, if you think you're the player and you're running in the box and he catches your ankle and it makes you stumble, then you're going to go down, aren't you? You're going to look to get that penalty. So
even in slow-mo, you could see it. The foot's a bit like... There's a full stride, and then all of a sudden, no, I'll keep it up, because they're good at it. It's what they're good at. But as what Hackett said it last week, they need to get braver, and they need to start calling some of these, because otherwise, the dreaded C word, once there's contact, it doesn't matter. Like even today, Mount, it's blatant free kick. The guy didn't even pull on him. His arm was around him, but it was but he does his little spin and falls and is screaming. And 20 seconds later, he's chasing it down. They're just brilliant at it now, and it's getting harder and harder. So I think they need to get a little bit braver and don't be afraid to make a few mistakes, but we have to try, lads. But they're just letting them have free run of doing whatever they want.
Yeah. Okay. Right. We do. Oh, Neil, Portugal. I think Cancelo is out.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's tested positive. Yeah.
Tested positive. He's going to have 10 days in isolation, so they obviously couldn't wait 10 days to get someone in. So Diego Dalot has come in instead of him. Would he not have been worth a try, Neil? Do you think? See if they get out of group stage and have him back again.
yeah, it's 2 games, isn't it? Really, I mean, you have enough time in 2 games. I don't know. Maybe they don't want to have him around. Maybe there was other advice that look, you got to get him out of there as soon as he tests. If you look at like England are waiting on Maguire, they're waiting on Henderson. Belgium are waiting on De Bruyne. I don't know. Portugal are expecting to progress, and if they want to progress, it all depends, I guess. Look, are they going to play Dalot instead of him? Then they need a ready-made replacement. If they have someone else that'll fit in there, maybe it's right.
Big loss though.
The Copa America is going to be potentially way worse. I think half of the Venezuela squad are out already with COVID. So if this finishes, I think it'll be a job well done, because it's already starting to unravel. So watch this space. I think the first game is on this evening. So they're missing half their team. So yeah, God only knows.
Okay, Neil, I'm going to stick with you because Celtic have a new boss, Ange Postecoglou. Postecoglou.
Yeah.
There you go. What do you make of him? And he seems an interesting character.
Yeah, very much so. So I was doing a little bit of research on him during the week, and I came across this article of him getting interviewed on, Australian Sky Sports, you could call it. So this guy came in, South Melbourne was his club that he played for, and then he went on and managed them. Now he's a young guy, you know what I mean? This is back early 2000s. He got himself with the Australian under 17s and then the Australian 20s. And what happened was he went to 2 or 3 different tournaments back to back with the 17-year-olds, and they were losing to teams like Laos and China and all these oceanic ones, But he went on an interview, and he kind of started off by going, listen, the players aren't conditioned, they haven't played enough matches. Our biggest problem in this tournament was that the players couldn't get through multiple games in a short space of time. And the studio absolutely turned on this guy and were basically demanding his resignation right there on air. And he fought with them back and forward for 15 minutes. Like, it was one of these car crash TVs where you literally could not look away, but he wouldn't budge. And they kept asking the same question. He kept saying, well, I'm not leaving. Why should I leave? And they kept saying, because you're terrible. Your record's terrible and you're losing against all these players and these teams, and you're making excuses. So what I found interesting with that was his comment looking back at that was, I was unhireable as a manager and nobody in the world of football would take me on as their assistant. So he had to basically go back to the lower level of Australian football again. He had to build himself back up. He then got a nice little number where he got a move over to the J League or the K League, wherever it would have been for him. And he started back up again. And here he is now, the Celtic manager. So I'll put it like this. The guy's been through some very, very tough times. Now, I think, is he 55 or 56 or something now? So he's obviously a lot wiser, a lot older. But that type of experience, and it was horrible to watch him get literally massacred live on air. They knew exactly what they were doing. It was horrible to watch, and yet you could not look away. So how we'll get on with Celtic and, the whole history of Celtic and all, he'll have thick skin built up just from the experience that he's built up in the last 20 years. So maybe that will help him. My pal Postecoglou get on now in Glasgow. Ange, as I'm calling him from now on. That's it.
Ange, probably it's handier. I seen that interview. I decided to watch it over the weekend. I had seen it around, but I never clicked into it. And I said, no, I must watch this. So you sent it on. I had a look at it. I watched it. And there was 2 things I got from it. One, that he was standing firm on everything that he was saying. But the second thing was they were very forward, very straightforward. Listen, you should resign. Not really their place to say, listen, you should resign. But there you go. I thought they were a bit harsh on him. Maybe you can put the questions to him. Where are you going to bring us? What why do you feel that you should stay in the job? But no, these were adamant that we're going to make him resign live on air. And that didn't happen. So, I thought it was a little bit unfair on him. But in fairness, now he's come around. He hasn't got a pro license, so I don't know how that's going to work out. I think because you're working for a certain amount of years or something in senior football that you will get a pass, a buy, or something like that. So that's fine. But Tom Rogic came out about 2016, 5 years ago. And he had a sort of an article or an interview that turned into an article saying that he found that Ange was very like Brendan Rodgers in a lot of ways. The way he plays, the way his thought process is, the way he wants his teams, the way he talks to his players. So this is well before that any links with Celtic. So Dave, that might be a good thing. There might be something that, his teams are going to be an attacking side, which Celtic obviously love.
Yeah, like the stereotype of Aussies there in the punditry, they don't mess about. And obviously with himself as well, he'd be well able for the melting pot that is Glasgow. But just before you were coming to me there, it's like, I want them to do well for no other reason, because you have to, like the fans who I want Mourinho, I want the Eddie Howe's, but what if this guy comes in and smashes it? They're out there, there's talent out there everywhere, and this guy's definitely has something about him, and it's going to be a bit of a character. And obviously Rogic seems to know a lot about him and saying he's very similar, and it's, you can't sit back cagey football. You need to attack, because what is it, 38 games in a season? You're probably going to have to win 34 or 35 of them, and then obviously 1 or 2 of them against Rangers in order to win the league. So you have to play an attacking brand of football. So for that sense, just to kind of get them to calm down, like let them manage first, let them get in there first and then stay, because straight away I'm sure half the brigade are like, why aren't we getting the Hows of this world and throw money around left, right and centre? You don't have it, that's why. Because there was an article today, what might have been an article today, which was boring, about Niall McGinn and Ivan Toney. If we had got them, we could be selling them for 70 million now. Yeah, so what? You didn't get them, and that's just the way it is. So going back to Ange, yeah, I'd love to see him do well, just to show that it is out there. Just be clever and get the right people in, get the right blend, because you're up against it. Rangers are potentially on the ascendancy. They find money, so they might be still finding more money now. And if Jared's going to stick around and increase they're under pressure, but it definitely seems like he's well able to cope.
Yeah, and I think the first rumor is that he's going to go for Matt Ryan, who plays for Brighton in goal. I think he's had him before. Over in Australia, so that'd be an interesting one if he can get, because I think they do need to sort out. He probably needs to sort out a good few players. There's going to be a lot of changes there. So
even because Edouard's probably going to go, I'd imagine.
Looks like it. So
30 goals missing.
He might have a tough first season, but Postecoglou, he's definitely looking forward to it, and it's a big job for him. And I really hope he does well, because as you said, it'd be great to see that. And of course, we want to see Steven Gerrard under a little bit of pressure. Everything's had it too easy so far. Okay, Neil, briefly, we're not going to stay on this too long, but VAR, they're going to make bigger lines. We're all overjoyed.
Yeah, great. I'm just sick of it. I really am. I have to say, I watched a little bit of Dutch football over the last while, and they just seem to handle it different. They go to the camera, quick decisions. They don't seem to be, and I don't know if this is just the Premier League decided to put their own spin on VAR, where they seem to really drill down slow motion, as Dave was saying, find a contact, grand penalty. It doesn't seem like a lot of the leagues really follow it. It doesn't seem to be standardized across all the different leagues in Europe, which I find is ridiculous, because it's meant to be a branded package that makes the game better. They can put ticker lines, thinner lines, they can put whatever bloody lines they want. You're still going to have a point where you're measuring a very, very small start and a very, very small ending point, and you're relying on the technology, the people that are using it. I'm sick to death of VAR. I really am. I thought it was going to be a great thing when it come in. It's breaking my heart as a fan now that you can't celebrate a goal when it happens. Is the biggest reason to get rid of it.
But are we is our heart broken because of the Premier League? Because it hasn't really featured in 7 games so far, really, all that much. And when it has, it's been very quick and decisive. As much as I had a moan about it, I expected him to get the penalty, but it didn't ruin the game. So, and as you're saying about Dutch football, and anyone like I'm sure if you're sitting in Italy or Spain, you're even getting the clickbait of, look at this decision in England, but we're not getting it the other way around. If anything, we're getting, look what they did. Like, if anything, I see, look what the brilliance of what they did even in the MLS, how they deal with it. So I think it's a bit of the Premier League. And as I said, Hackett was very interesting listening to him last week. He never mentioned Mike Riley once. Do you notice that, Shannon? Except once. And I'd say he's not a big fan of him. And he's like, yeah, he just wiped his hands of it and went, whatever he says, I'll go with it because I'm not touching it. So I'd say half of them don't even want it. Like, I'd say there's that bit of an element of, do it wrong and they'll get rid of it. And I've always had a bit of an inkling of it. And not that I'm saying I'm cocksure of it now, but it was reaffirmed a tiny bit by what Keith Hackett said last week,
Yeah. Okay, I got to go into the first transfer one. The one that I was looking at, Neil, was obviously Jadon Sancho has been talked up big time that he's going to go for a move this year.
That's mine.
Where's he going?
Sorry, Dave, what do you want to talk about? What's your transfer?
No, I was like, Jadon Sancho, would you believe?
Was it Sancho?
I am going to say Jadon Sancho every week until this goes somewhere, because I'm sick to death of Sancho in United or Sancho and God knows where. Just somebody sign him or somebody come out and say no. That's all. I'm going to say that every week until it's done. All right, I'm just going to hang me hat there.
They say that there's 11 million in the difference between what they want and what they've been offered. Nowadays, 11 million is probably not a lot. When you look at Jadon Sancho, he's not even making it into the England 23 squad. I've seen him on numerous occasions in the Bundesliga. I've never been that impressed with him. I'm not saying he's not a good footballer. I've never been that impressed with him. But there's a lot of people who are talking him up, and he does obviously have qualities. Manchester United on the right hand side, Greenwood does a really good job. Do they need to have two players in every position like City?
Who's this going to, Dave or me?
Oh, Dave, yeah.
Oh, Dave. Yeah, like I'm a bit like if you just go with the rumors, and like I said last week or whenever, they seem to be obsessed with them because it just won't go away. But one or two interesting stories have come out in the last couple of days about the split with City, and 17 years of age when he left. But it was like, I want reassurances put into my contract about playing time and stuff like that. So very Pogba-esque, a bit similar to that. And of course, we all know what happened. So bring him back at your peril, the more you look into it, because Guardiola says he's a fine player, but he's no interest in taking him back. So that's good enough for me. So, Solskjaer, I don't know, he'd want to be wary because that could bite him. He could be another one of these that comes in 1 in 5 games, he shows a bit of class and then does feck all for the other 4, but then does another, bit Lingard for 5 or 6 years, but no consistency. That's what I'd be a bit fearful of. But it just won't go away. So it's just like, if you really want them that bad, just pay the bloody money. Like, it was 110 last year. Now it's something like 80 something, but they're still 11 short. I'm not saying we shouldn't be flippant about 11 million, but if you want them that much, just go and bloody get them.
Yeah. I'm kind of one of them that doesn't really want them at United. I don't see what others have seen. Maybe that's because I haven't seen them enough, but there's something in there that I just don't really particularly want to see him. I think there's other people, as you said, Jack Grealish, you can see the emotion, the heart, the desire, the honesty in his desire to win stuff and to go on in football, that he'll give a team 100% all the time. As you said, that Jadon Sancho has that kind of Pogba thing about him that you're just not sure. And as well, I'm not convinced that people go over to the Bundesliga and do well are actually doing that well, because I'm not so sure about the Bundesliga. So we leave that one. Neil, we'll go on to you. Seems Dave's got his one out of the way. What's yours?
So I was thinking of a few, but the one that I thought would actually make good sense, Saul Niguez from Atletico, but they're saying United and Juve are kind of fighting over him. Now Saul plays kind of a CDM, but he's a very kind of a Rolls Royce type of player, good on the ball. He's played there for Atletico. He guards them with his life. I was kind of banging on a couple, maybe months ago, just when you look at Fred and McTominay playing in there for United, that if they want to progress and if they want to go up a level, I think they need to get a better quality of CDM in there, a guy that can play a bit more ball, that has an eye for a pass, and Saul does that. He has the 60, 70 yarders in him. He's a definite upgrade on what they have, but he's going to cost them about 60, 70 million. So do you have a 60, 70 million for a Saul and then a 90 million for a Sancho? Is that your budget? Is it one or the other? I don't know. But if United want to progress and if they want to go up a level, in my opinion, you're shipping out maybe a Fred and you're bringing in a guy like Saul. You think of the experience, you think he's after winning a title in Spain. This is a guy that Simeone trusts with the heart of, covering the heart of his defence. So it'd be an interesting buy if they were to pull that one off. Juve, I don't know if they have the money or the kind of pulling power to get him. But for United, you would think he would be tailor-made. If they're not going high in the centre half, maybe you get the next best thing, which is a guy to guard him in there. That's one of the best in the business.
Yeah. Now, what I know from him this year is his game time got limited as the season went on, and I don't think he played as much. I did see a thing where he was, I'm nearly sure it was one of the German teams. It could have been Borussia Dortmund or Leipzig, where a deal was nearly done with one of those over there only last week. Now, again, this is the rumour mill time, so there could be a lot of rumours going around, but I seen him before on a few occasions. I thought he was good, but then you kind of question it, if he's not getting in at Atletico, why isn't he getting in at Atletico? And they've gone on and won the league. So again, yeah, I'm a bit dodgy about that one. Where last year I wouldn't have been like yourself there, Neil. I'm not too sure now. Just after knowing how much game time he got this year, and I don't think it was because of injury. So, Dave, one of the big transfers this year is this one. You talked about the shitty Sky Sports punditry in Australia earlier. Jim White is leaving Sky. Do we care? Dave, what do you reckon? Do we care that Jim White is leaving? I know he's staying with Talk Sport, so that's where he's going to. I think he's doing that, obviously trying to put his heart and soul into that. But from Sky, will we miss him on transfer deadline day, or is just anyone will do the job?
Me, no. I'm not going to miss him. To be honest, if anything on TalkSport, I find him a bit more annoying. I think he's very much sits on the fence, which is probably from his Sky days. I love it when Jordan gets in on one and you can see him scrambling a little bit, going, what are we going to do here? He very rarely kind of goes in with him. But transfer deadline day, that's been dead for many a year for me, and for most self-respecting fans, it should be as well. Like it's been a dud for many a transfer window now. So him and his yellow tie, yeah, thanks, but yeah, whatever. Good luck. Sky Sports or Sky Sports. I've not much time for how they go about their business. So yeah, another one's gone. Whoopie do. Somebody else will come in and just be more vanilla. Do
you not watch Sky Sports as much? Do you not? Have you got over it now?
I watch the headlines. That's about it. Just to say, or for the goals, like at midnight of a Saturday night or Sunday morning, watch the goals of any games I missed. Sure, they have Mark Wright now on at 7 o'clock every morning at the minute doing a Euro show. So that's where they are. Charlotte Jackson's back as well. I think it's Chris Coleman's missus, is it? But yeah, there's just it just stokes up the fire for their shows. Sure, even last night for about 2 hours solid, it was about the protocol about what happens when a player collapses, and it was just, let's bang a good message, keep banging the good message. They're just a good message thing constantly. Like I said, and before, the coverage, here's the goals from such as, here's them taking the knee, next game, here's them taking the knee, it's just constant PR machine. And when there's a fight on, it takes over 50% of the hour of the coverage, and it's all top line stuff. There's little or no in-depth coverage, little or no in-depth analysis of anything, little or no reports where they go off and look into things and dig into things, and here's a little half an hour special. There's little or nothing. It's all cheap stuff because all the money goes into the coverage of it. That's my opinion of Sky Sports. I know it's a bit strong, but I take it all with a very, very, very small pinch of salt, because yeah, there's little or no depth for me, to be honest.
I watched ITV today. I watched the North Macedonia-Austria game on ITV. They had Ashley Cole, Ian Wright, and Emma Hayes, the Chelsea women's manager. And I have to say, I had to turn it. Emma Hayes was the best out of the three. Ian Wright, you know what Ian Wright is, and Ashley Cole is just brutal. So, and even, I think they're losing badly. BBC have probably the best of them. They're losing badly now. I mean, they probably need Keane on every day just to keep ITVs going. But I thought it was very, very poor. Neil, what do you make of Sky Sports at the moment? Do you think they're going downhill? Because there's a lot of there's the likes of Amazon who are talking about really taking over the whole thing, and Sky Sports could be a thing of the past in the near distant future.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've lost a monopoly, Sky Sports, now, and at this stage, Dave hit the nail on the head there. They're very top loaded. It's all Premier League. You know, these are the big moments. These are the big things. They absolutely do nothing to promote any of the lower leagues. They don't delve into stories of other leagues or who does well. You know, who's getting relegated, who's getting promoted. They really skim. They skim off the top layer as such. The cream, which is the Premier League, is their flagship. But I'd like to see them like that, where they dig in a little bit lower on the lower leagues and give you a bigger picture of what's going on. Because like that, I tuned in last night just to see was there anything else going on or any further updates on the Eriksen scenario. I flicked from BT to Sky, and it was the same thing, the same little 7-minute segment, back to back with no new information. It does be a bit disappointing after a while, but there's only so much of that you can watch, I think, anyway. But they seem to be trying to change their image now. They got rid of, Phil Thompson and all the boys, and then now Jim is gone. So they seem to be trying to rebrand their image. What they go for, or where they're going to end up, who knows? We wait and see. Well, I'm not a massive fan of them anyway. You rather get pros that are on that aren't afraid to speak their mind, and Sky more or less veer away from that. Maybe Souness and Keane when he kind of goes in with his kind of flippant remarks every now and then, but yeah, they're probably losing that battle. The best thing to have is the Keane and what's his name?
Richards.
Yeah, they're trying to make.
Did you watch that video during the week? Did you?
Yeah, I watched
the Sky Bet one.
Yeah, like Jesus, I've never seen
good in
Keane
fairness.
so animated. Like the last two episodes, Keane was just so into it, so he kind of forgot that cameras were there. I'd say he literally just thought for the last 2 episodes, he just thought he was in the car with the boys, and it was great to see him come out with shit like that.
Yeah, it was very, very good. No, I find with Sky Sports that I love Sky Sports. I love the Sky Sports news. I love watching any upcoming news and that that's coming in, and but you do also realise when you're sitting there and you've heard about Roy Keane's comment in 1 hour, and then all of a sudden you hear the comment again, you go, oh geez, that's been an hour. All right, better turn Sky Sports off. I'm after hearing everything that's going to be on now for the rest of the night, and there's no point watching the rest of the night because it's going to be the same crap over and over again. So yeah, they're not filling a lot of their time with new content. It seems to be the most of the day you're just going to get the same information. So they really need to have a good look at that again, because I'm not watching it as much. Yeah. That it, Neil? You put your hand up there. I didn't know if you were in the back of class there putting the hand up. Okay. Right, listen, we're finishing up there. We'll talk to you next week. Enjoy the Euros, and we'll chat to you next week. Okay, it's time to freeze.